What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the OIG Podcast for another episode. This will be episode number 4 with Kevin Orsinger and Max Messett, myself. This will be our life stage 55 to 64. So that's ages 55 to 64. We've done life stages 20 to 39, 40 to 54, and now this will be 55 to 64. And this is kind of that range. There's a lot of, I don't want to say pressure, but there's a lot of talk around this life stage. I guess I could start with of what does this look like rolling into retirement? I mean, this is that life stage where retirement really becomes that reality, and you're in that real back half. We'll call that the really back half of making this a true thing come true. So Kevin, I don't know what your thoughts are on this life stage, but I know this is the time where we have a lot of conversation around this of can it happen? Will it happen? How's it happen?
I'm in this life stage,
Yeah.
so I can speak
Yeah.
a little true to life with it. But this is honestly, at this stage of life, retirement becomes real.
Yeah.
I think up until this stage, it's something you're thinking about and planning for, but in the back of your mind, it's also, God, that's 1,000 years from now.
Yeah.
You get to be 55 plus, and you are 7 to 10 years probably in most situations away from retiring. So yeah, you can see the finish line or the light at the end of the tunnel at this stage, but the most important part of the race, you're in it, and ultimately the decisions you make and the things you choose to focus on are really going to positively or negatively impact you when you get to that retirement age.
Yeah. What would you say kind of the feeling around this life stage? I think I have a word in mind for it. But what would you say general consensus of individuals that we work with that kind of head into this life stage? What are they thinking? What are they feeling?
Yeah, I think there's two emotions that are pretty consistent. One is excitement for it.
Yeah. Okay.
And the other one is that they're scared to death.
Yeah, I was going to say nerves. Nerves always seem to come into play because of that reality of this is turning real. It's always been like you talked about that. Oh, I got 20 years. I got 15 years. It's what do I have now that's going to allow me to make this the present, make this a true reality of being able to walk out of the doors of work for the last time and make this whole thing happen.
Yes. Have I done enough in the previous 35 years or so?
Right. Right.
To get me to the retirement that I desire. Hopefully, you've started early and hopefully you've done the right things. But if you haven't, there are some catch-up opportunities here for you, especially if you're closer to 55 than 64.
Yeah.
The first thing I would say for people in this stage is, you want to walk into retirement with either very, very little debt or no debt. With the exception of maybe a car payment in a household. It's tough to retire if you're carrying a mortgage that the payment's $800 or $1,000 a month, and you're carrying $400 monthly credit card payments. It is hard then to generate enough income for you to enjoy retirement when most of what you're using is going towards paying off debt. So again, if you have a mortgage at this stage of life, and it's not uncommon that you do, what do we need to do to get that paid down before, again, age 62, 63, 64, 65, whenever you decide you want to retire, we have got to get rid of that mortgage payment. And also, the credit card debt's a killer as well. So how do we stop adding to that debt, and how do we ultimately get that paid off? Because it is, we can speak from experience, Max and I, it is really, really, you're in an uphill battle if you have not eliminated those monthly outgoing costs prior to your retirement date.
And that's something we talk about a lot of. We talk about that lifestyle, you wanting to hold that lifestyle as you end work and go into this stage where that's going to be more of a fixed income we like to talk about, right? With some different buckets of money feeding you that monthly income. But if a lot of that is getting chewed up by those monthly payments of a mortgage, a car payment, credit card debt, all that's causing is the leftover money for things that you enjoy to do. There's going to be less of that left over.
Right.
So the more money that we can free up in this life stage going into retirement, the more that just allows you to enjoy that lifestyle that you want to have in retirement. And I think that's the important way to look at it, because again, you can carry these things into retirement. I mean, we've dealt with that. It's not a pretty sight a lot of the time because of how much money it does take to fund a lot of these things, and it just doesn't make it feasible to carry both the lifestyle and the cars and the house, and we see that all the time.
Yeah, if you had $1,000 a month going towards, we'll call it mortgage debt or bad debt and credit card debt, would you rather go to that in retirement? Would you rather go to something fun?
Right.
Extra trips and dinners out and more golf.
Right. I mean, $1,000 a month gets you a long way with a lot of things that, especially in the area that we can do with golf. Yeah. Golfing, trips, weekend stuff, heading up to, I don't know, Erie, whatever you want to do, whatever's fun for you. $1,000 actually, it gets you quite some fun to have in a month. So
once we focused on that, Max, what's something else we should consider at this stage?
Yeah. So kind of like you hit on, we're in the life stage. If you're in this life stage, you are in the situation to be able to take advantage of some catch-up contribution stuff. So once we, cover our debt, we're making a plan for that, getting it paid down. Maybe it is paid down. This is the time we're in that latter half to really start putting money in these accounts. So your 401k, your 403b, anything through an employer, we should have been putting money in up to the match thus far. But let's make sure that the allocation on that's correct. Let's make sure that we're still getting that money put in those accounts, because again, still going to benefit us coming out the backside of this. For our IRAs, Roth IRAs, any individual accounts that have those wrappers, anything over 50, you have a catch-up contribution, which is typically $1,000 to $1,500 more than what somebody under 50 can put in. For example, Roth IRA, 7,500 for anybody under 50, 8,600 is anybody over 50. So we need to be making sure that we're maxing those out, but also maxing it out with that catch-up. Now is the time to really get as much money put away. I know we talked about in the last life stage video, if you guys tuned into that, you had more time in the last life stage to make a difference. You still have some time here, right, Kevin? I mean, this isn't, we didn't cross the finish line yet. And I'm always one, never say never. We can make a difference. Just have to be precise and very disciplined with making sure we're using money smart here, getting them into accounts, getting enough money into these accounts that's going to allow them to grow and make a difference for you as that retirement comes to fruition, and these buckets start playing an important part on your monthly income once you call it quits.
And these extra contributions may not turn your retirement into your dream retirement, but it's sure set going to improve your situation.
Absolutely.
Most likely from 55 to 64, you're in a phase of life that financial planners like to call the DINK phase, which means double income, no kids, D-I-N-K.
Yep.
So the reality of it is, if you're not spending a bunch of money on raising kids and college expenses and dances and travel, sports and things like that, you should have extra money to save. There should be an opportunity some point in time in this third life stage that kids are out on their own, standing on their own 2 feet, so to speak, and the money you were spending on them over the previous 20 plus years, you should now have available to put towards your retirement.
Which I think is a conscious effort, not to step in there, but also a conscious effort to do so. We talked in the last couple of videos about lifestyle creep of, those kids kind of get on their own. That's not the chance. Can be for a time period maybe, but to turn that money into savings. You were using it for something on them before. Don't just let that money turn into, wow, all of a sudden we don't know where that $1,500 a month went. We started going out to eat more. We started doing this more. Use that to fund future you, because these are those years that you can really take advantage of doing so and make a difference with that. And I didn't mean to step in there, Kevin. It just hit my mind and figured I'd shoot it while, because that day I forgot about that term, but that is very true. That is a great time of life for to get money put someplace.
And you touch on the most important, having the money available to you and using it correctly for your retirement are two completely different steps. So you need to be cognizant that it's extra and available. And you need to take that next step to make sure you get it invested. A big question that we get from clients in this stage, getting closer to retirement, is, well, I'm not going to have a paycheck from my job anymore.
Right.
So how am I going to have income to do the things that I want to do? So Max, you want to touch on some options
Yeah.
for that?
Yeah. So I have probably quite a couple 2 Minute Tuesday videos on this that I've kind of hit on. And the way I always look at it is when you go into retirement, you have a bunch of different buckets of money sitting there and they're all kind of spread out, but in the middle is one big bucket. And I refer to that as retirement income, or on a monthly basis and annual basis. All these other little buckets are where you've saved money or have the opportunity to pull money from to make up that monthly number that you're ideally replacing what you would with that paycheck while you were working. Couple of those spots that we look, obviously, first and foremost, is the money that you have saved, right? So any 401ks, 403bs, Roth IRAs, SEP IRAs, all these accounts that we talk about, money that over the last 20 or 30 years you've put into these accounts now is turning into, you're going to start taking money out of these accounts. So it is a little mental switch as well, because you're so used to putting money in. Now money's going to come out. So that's one place that we go. Social Security is another faucet that we turn on or start grabbing money out of that bucket. For everybody, that looks a little bit different, obviously, depending on your income over the time that you've worked and the amount of years. And there's a whole formula for that. But this is a bucket that does come into play and is kind of the cherry on top, we'll say, when we start running these, what's your monthly look like, of not say it gets forgot about, but a lot of times it's relied on. It is kind of that centerpiece of when you think of retirement, Social Security comes top of mind. Something that's kind of gone by the wayside. We don't see a whole lot of it, but pensions. If you have a pension, you are few and far between anymore, I'd say, but it is a nice addition when we're talking on the retirement income side. And then, Kevin, like we talk about too, retirement looks different for everybody. And the word retirement, I think immediately everybody goes to, I'm done. I'm literally walking away. I'm never working again for the next 30 years of my life. And that's not always the case, right? That sometimes retirement is just a change. It's, hey, I've been doing this for 45, 50 hours a week. I'm tired of working 10-hour days, 4 days on, 4 days off, whatever. And I want something different. And part-time work is sometimes the answer to that. And we deal with a lot of individuals that just head to part-time work, allow themselves to still make a nice little amount of money that is kind of self-funding for what they like to do. They call it their fun paycheck sometimes, whatever that looks like. But again, guys, these are just different buckets of money. But when you pull it all together, that is your retirement income there in the center that really gets you there. And that just determines what that monthly annual number is, and then that lifestyle that you want in retirement and how we get to there.
The nice thing with Social Security and pensions, you're able to get estimates on what your monthly income would be from those, based on, how long you've worked, how much has been paid into it. So it's not like you're going into retirement guessing, from both of those institutions. You're able to find out an estimate of how much money is going to come in. And that kind of becomes your foundation. That really becomes your consistent, that every month, this is what's coming in.
Yeah.
As Max, if you're lucky enough to have a pension, fantastic. Less and less people today have that. But Social Security is a nice foundational piece. And then you use the money that you've saved through 401ks and IRAs and Roth IRAs and brokerage accounts to kind of fill in the gaps over that time. I know when Max said part-time work, I'm sure everyone that's getting close to retirement rolls their eyes. Most people that go back to work do it from a social standpoint more than a financial standpoint. That sometimes being at home as much as when you're working, the idea of being at home a bunch sounds fantastic until you have to do it 365 days a year. And maybe it's not as enjoyable. So that part-time work is a little bit social, a little bit financial. And what we've gleaned from people over the years is, unlike, your regular job where you've got your benefits attached to it and a paycheck attached to it, if your part-time job turns out to be something you don't want, you can just quit.
Right.
You're 45 years old and you've got a wife or a spouse and kids and a mortgage, and the job you have becomes a little bit too much. You kind of have to suck it up and continue doing it. In retirement, if you've got a part-time job and you tell them, I only want to work during the day, no nights and no weekends, and they put you on nights and weekends, you can just say, I won't be coming in anymore.
Right.
And there is some freeing, or there's some freedom to that I've learned from working with clients. So Yeah, don't look at part-time work as some sort of failure in your planning, because a lot of times it's more about getting out of the house and having something scheduled and having some routine,
Mm-hmm.
and less about financials.
Yeah. And as we kind of look at that Social Security picture, Kevin, I know there's a lot of talk about, when do I take it? And I'm sure my dad won't mind me throwing, but there's some, as he has that personality that has it tracked to a dollar. As 62, 63, 64, 65. What do you look at when you're talking that Social Security? A lot of that's wrapped around people's mind of, when do I take this? When's the right time? Planning it around retirement if they want to get out a little earlier. What's your thoughts on some of that stuff?
So you're eligible for Social Security at age 62.
Mm-hmm.
You do get a reduction in payment. Everyone has what's called a full retirement age. It's age 67 for the folks we're talking about in this life stage, that if you retire, for every month you retire in advance of age 67, there's a reduction in that payment. That's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're ready to retire at 62 and it makes sense financially to do it, go ahead and retire at 62. If you are before your full retirement age, though, and you are collecting Social Security, there is a limit of how much earned income you can have. So make sure you're aware of that if you're going to work part-time in retirement, that that, and I don't have the figure off the top of my head, and I should know it better than that. It's somewhere around $24,000 of earned income.
I believe it's 24 to 36. There's a kind of a threshold in there with the don't quote me on that as well, but that was kind of the threshold.
But it's good knowledge to have, that if you are going to work part-time. Most people say, listen, if I was going to earn $25,000 working part-time, I'm just going to stay at my regular job.
Yeah.
Let's look at, do we have a pension? And then does that cover my needs? And if that doesn't, then Social Security is usually the next step. More than likely, we're going to make the recommendation as a general statement, not for everybody, that if you're going to retire at 62, start taking your Social Security at 62. Yeah. We've had cases where people have waited to take Social Security and have passed away before they've taken it and received nothing. Spouse gets a very, very, very small death benefit in the couple $100 range. So even if you don't necessarily need it to spend it, go ahead and take it. At least you're getting paid some money that you've paid into it. And if all you do is put it in the bank or reinvest it into something, you're further ahead. Obviously, the longer you wait. So if you don't retire until you're 65, your Social Security payment is going to be higher because you've paid into it for 3 more years, and then you're a lot closer to your full retirement age. Speaking of age 65, that's when Medicare kicks in. That's when your health insurance from the government kicks in. So if you are going to retire at 62, how are we going to cover health insurance between that age and age 65 is important. Again, if you're lucky enough to have one of those jobs that maybe has a pension attached to it, school teacher, state employee, federal employee, there's probably some type of government covered health insurance that you have until Medicare. If you're like the majority of people, you're going to have to find something on your own. Yeah. Or if you retire and your spouse keeps working, maybe you can get on your spouse's coverage, something like that. So there's a lot that goes into it. None of it's daunting, but they're just things to consider and keep in mind. Where we are geographically, health insurance is probably, for an individual, is probably, depending on the level of coverage, $8,000 to $12,000 a year for premiums. So if that's you and your spouse, how much money is that?
Right.
And that kind of goes back when we talked about, you got to wipe out mortgages and credit card debt. Because if you have health insurance payments and those debts on top of it, you've basically wiped out all of your pensions and Social Security amounts. So a lot to consider, a lot to think about. But ultimately, everything we can develop a plan for everything that you're looking to do. It may not be I'm vacationing 50 weeks a year around the country and around the world kind of retirement, but to get you in a position where you can get away from your employment and enjoy yourself, whatever that is. For some people, it's very little. I just want to be able to golf a couple times a week and have dinner with my friends every now and again. And for others, it's a little bit more. We'd like a vacation home, or we'd like to travel more. We've got grandkids and kids spread all over the country we want to go see. So everyone's a little bit different. None's right, none's wrong. Mm-hmm. It's really what you are hoping or expecting to have.
So looking at kind of that Social Security, Kevin, not that we run into that a lot, but somebody that's still working, 63, 64, planning on getting out at 65, probably waiting till 65 to take Social Security, right? Because
wait till you're retired.
Yeah.
Because for every $2, again, we'll just say it's $24,000 is your earnings limit while you're receiving Social Security before your full retirement age. For every $2 above that, Social Security withholds $1 of your payment. So it's almost counterproductive.
And you're getting a less benefit taking it earlier. So you're kind of, it's a two-way edge there.
And again, that's a spousal decision. So if one spouse is going to retire at 62 and one's going to keep working, the one that retires at 62 can start getting their Social Security while the other spouse continues to work. They're not tied together. Everyone gets to make their own individual.
I think the biggest thing that we see as well, like you hit on, is that healthcare cost. I mean, that's something, for people in this life stage that are around that, upper 50s, low 60s, that are thinking, hey, I really want to be done here in the next couple of years. It's the time to start thinking about that health insurance conversation and healthcare. That is one of the biggest things that we run into that I don't think people understand how, again, not that it's not undoable. It's just, there has to be some thought put to it and some strategy behind it, because it's not just, a couple bucks a month that we can get this for. It is a good chunk of money that you have to make sure is accounted for going into retirement. There's just a lot that goes around it. So if you're in that part and you're thinking about it, really put some thought to it, talk to somebody about it, get a plan kind of set for it, so it's not that oddball that's thrown at you that you weren't prepared for. Before you call it quits. That would be the thing I say is don't do it and then think about it. Think about it before, so you kind of already have it all wrapped together and have a great idea on what that looks like for you headed forward.
Yeah, I've been doing this long enough, 25 plus years, that when I first got in the business, that 62 is a pretty common age, because health insurance, if you were healthy, because there was underwriting back then, but if you were healthy, you could retire at 62 without a crippling monthly premium. Today, more and more people are having to push retirement to 65, or at least closer to 65. I can absorb 1 year of paying premiums myself and I'll get out at 64 kind of thing. But it's not as many people getting out at 62, again, that don't have pensions, that don't have some built-in health insurance from their employer. So Max, as we wrap this up, we'll just review real quick. So if you're in the 55 to 64 range, some things to consider. Eliminate debt, at a minimum, reduce it, but boy, you should eliminate it before you're ready to retire. While you're in this run to the finish line, maximize any extra retirement savings that you can. 401k, Roth IRA, brokerage account. Put more money away. You've probably raised kids and are out of the house, so you probably have more money accessible to you. Make sure you understand what income you can have available to you in retirement. Social Security for all, pensions for some, should have the ability to make some withdrawals from your investment accounts, and how that works. And if you choose to pick up some part-time work to keep yourself in the community. And then, developing some sort of Social Security strategy. Does it make sense to take it at what age? And making sure you understand all the parameters with that. That's why it's beneficial to work with not necessarily Max and I, although we would love that, but work with some financial professional, investment professional that understands the ins and outs of this, the nuances of it. So you're able to have the best retirement that you can have. Because no one wants to retire and then 5 years later, 7 years later, have to go back to a full-time job. Because they didn't ask enough questions, they didn't have a good enough plan. And then have to go back to some sort of drudgery for 40 hours a week after being retired for a short period of time. Anything else to add, Max?
I would say for anybody in the earlier life stages, find somebody that's in this life stage and ask them how quickly that came about, and what maybe their old look would be if they could get back to what age you're sitting at now. Because I think we run that a lot. And like we've hit on and Kevin's talked about, there is a lot of, I wish I would have started earlier. I wish I would have done more. Again, there's also the situations, I'm glad I started earlier and I'm glad I did more, but more times than not, I would say it's the, I wish I would have done more when the situation in this life stage, when there's the chance that starts becoming a reality of retirement. As Kevin says, you can't sit there with too much money in stages like this when it's time to maybe call it quits. So if you're in an earlier life stage, take the chance, start thinking about this, and start. If you're in this life stage, kind of exactly what we just hit on, start getting a plan put together for yourself and start being connected with where you're at and get a real idea of what this looks like for you in the next 10 to 12 years. Getting out and making a successful retirement for you, again, looks different for everybody, but our end goal is to make it what everybody's hopes can be. And when they're done calling it work, what's that lifestyle look for you?
Very good.
So
hey, if you're catching us for the first time, make sure you subscribe, comment on it. We love to get feedback from these. What are we doing well? What can we improve on? What has helped you? Some contact information if you have questions or want to schedule something. We are happy to get together with you.
Yeah.
Very good. Till we have another one and talk with you next time. Enjoy yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you soon.